so 997.2, so a 2010, 2011 GT3 RS. I think the GT3 should be the same, and I'm pretty sure the 3.6 liter, the 997.1, don't quote me on this, should be the same experience. So we're looking at, I'm doing transmission, oil, and I also did a new pressure switch on the axle lift. I'm going to put all in a description, all the parts you need, all the quantities, because I found it really annoying to try to figure out the definitive resource on this stuff. Of course, you can use the manual, but the manual is missing some of the quantities and stuff like that. So I'm going to do this video a little differently than I normally have, or normally have done, because I've done 1,000 oil change videos. I've actually taken the fluids out of the car, but I'm going to go step by step, all the different parts and pieces that you need. All right, so let's talk about oil first. Oil, you need 9.5 quarts. 9 quarts is what it calls for. I think most people end up putting 9.5 quarts in of, I'm doing 5W40. It calls for OW40 Mobil 1. I think Amsoil is better. It's my oil of choice. So I'm doing 5W40. I don't need the zero weight option. 5W40 is fine. And much more readily available, but I always put 5W40 in GT cars. Need some towels. I needed, obviously ratchet, and you need a 19 and a 16 millimeter, and then, is it 15? 19 and 15 millimeter. I need the Hazet part number 000-721-944-30. This fits pretty much all oil filter housings on all of the GT3s, at least all the ones that I've owned. And then I need a new oil filter. I'll put the link in the description. You need a new O-ring that comes with the oil filter kit that you get from Suncoast. A couple of crush washers. These are for the transmission. But you need a couple of crush washers for the drain bolts. If you really want, you could replace the drain bolts. I didn't do it. I don't find it necessary to do that. Then I'm going to need a funnel. I'm not sure which one, but I need some sort of funnel, and then just a little bit of patience. So to do engine oil, you only need to take one panel off, the furthest rear panel. So take this one off. It's either T25 or T27. It's the 4 screws you need to take out. I have the car in the lift, so I used a tank, or whatever you call this thing, catch tank thingy. This one's terrible. You don't want this one. The one you want is from Samson. So before draining the oil, take the oil filter out. So you would remove this using the oil filter tool from Hazet that I showed you. Remove this. It's a 27 millimeter ratchet socket that you would need, and then that specific tool to take this off. You retorque it 25 newton meters, so it shouldn't have been on very tight. There's a bunch of oil in there that I took out with a turkey baster, so I took the extra out, then pull the 2 drain bolts underneath. We'll show you those in a second. So the panel's off. You've got 2 drain bolts, one here, which is the 15 millimeter. Second drain bolt is on the, I think this is the dry sump tank. This is the, lots and lots of water, oil will come out of this tank, and that's a 19 millimeter. You have a new crush washer here. I actually bought a new bolt for this, so this is actually a brand new bolt in here. And this one, for whatever reason, I didn't buy, but it seems okay, and a new crush washer there. Once we're ready to replace, new oil filter, new O-ring on here. This is ready to fill. We also have to add about a full quart of oil into this area. Then we'll add roughly 8 quarts to the oil hole where you put the oil in. So it took about half a quart in the oil filter housing. Here's what it looks like. Torque to 25 newton meters. Be careful not to dump oil down the front of the engine. So we're going to do it nice and slow. So we'll put 9 quarts in. I'll bump it, drive it, and then check the level and add another half a quart if necessary. Oil's done. Now, transmission, you need 7590 gear oil. I actually had bought 3 quarts. It needs 3.3, like 3.5 quarts. It's 3.3 liters is what it calls for. So I had to buy 2 more packages, and they didn't have any quarts, so I had to buy these goofy bags in order to put in it. But you need 2 crush washers. There's a fill bolt and a drain bolt, and so you need the crush washers, and you need a ratchet with a 10mm. So I think it's 10mm, and then you need. I don't think we need this stubby since we took the strut or the brace off. This is just a generic bump from Advanced AutoZone. Or access the transmission, you need to remove the next panel and then the center panel. So this is the center panel. You got 2 bolts. You've got the fill bolt up top, and you got the drain bolt on the bottom. Both are 10mm. 10mm hex. And this junk pump, this is a 2-man operation, but if you had a good pump, what you do procedurally is pull the drain bolt off, drain it, pull the fill bolt out. It's easier to pull this brace off here. Take this brace off one side, and then fill with roughly 3.5 quarts until it drips out. It's tight. It helps to have a stubby 10mm. There's not a lot of room to fit. Yeah, that will. So the other thing I did is another maintenance issue. The axle lift stopped working, and it's generally the pressure switch. There's 2 pressure switches here. I'll put it in the description which ones you need, or which one you need. It's about $400. So you take this cover off of this side. You do need to really wiggle and sort of get I believe it's a 20mm socket. But you take this off and replace this piece. That pressure switch tends to fail, and so now my axle lift is functioning again. So it's in the transmission tunnel here area. So when you remove if you're going to change the oil or change the transmission fluid, it'd be a good time to replace your $400 pressure switch, the one on the left when you're looking toward the front of the car. Now I'm going to reset the service light on the car. I think this one should work. So this is the POR version 2.0 iCar Soft. I found that this one allows you to reset the service light without having to go to the dealer. And put all of our plastic panels back on the car, as the job is now finished. Alright, service light's good. The airbag light is still, it's saying incorrect coding for airbag. So maybe I need a P-Wiz to reset that, but service is reset from this guy. So if your axle lift doesn't do this, where I press the button, the car lifts, it should then say lift. If it doesn't say lift, then it's very likely that pressure switch. And so now I can then press the button again, and the lift will go down and lift goes away. Nice. So $400 instead of $15,000 will fix your axle lift by replacing that part that I put in the description. What happens is if the pressure switch is malfunctioning, the car never knows that the lift is actually engaged, even though it is engaged and the car is lifted. And so what happens is the car will lift, but it won't recognize it, and then it will only go down at 35 miles an hour. So if the pressure switch is functioning, I should be able to press the button and have it function like normal. Make sure that your door is closed. If your door isn't closed, then it won't function.